Hello everyone and welcome back to another Let's Play episode. In today's episode I want to focus on building. I have a couple of design ideas that I want to build to continue the expansion of our village base. As you can see, on this side of the village, the area is well decorated and the buildings are complete. I mean, I don't like to call anything complete, but the builds are all connected and well decorated in between. Where over here, I have my home and my wool farm, and this big empty space in between that is just an ugly eyesore in my town. So today we are going to fix that, and the first idea I have is a nice pond right here next to the side entrance to my home. This is going to serve as a nice axolotl sanctuary. I don't have anywhere for axolotls in my world yet, and I think this is going to be a really nice place for them to be. Okay, so let me get to gathering some resources and I'll be right back to you in just a little bit. Okay, so after just a little bit of resource gathering, I have everything that I'm going to need for at least the bulk of this build. So without further ado, let's get building. Okay, I think I've made a really good start to this project. I'm loving the way this pond is turning out, and I love the look of the cherry trees around it. And I just love watching the axolotls swim around, it's just so much fun to watch. I think the proximity to the main path is really good too, and I love how you can see it in amongst the trees, it's looking very cozy. It's obviously far from being finished. I need to connect it up to the main path and do a lot of exterior decorating work, but I'm going to put a pause on it for now and get started on the next project, which is going to be sitting right next to it over in this direction. Right about here, I want to build a cozy little house which is going to be a honey and honeycomb farm. Both honey and honeycomb are valuable resources in my world, especially honeycomb with waxing copper blocks. So it's going to be really good to have a farm dedicated to these two items in my world. Plus, it's going to feel really good getting rid of this mess over here. So I'm going to gather some things together again and I'll be right back with you when I'm ready. Okay, I'm back with pretty much all the resources I should need for this farm. So, as usual, this farm is going to be my own design, but it does follow the same mechanics as pretty much all honey and honeycomb farms out there, and I'll take you through those mechanics now. So the most important thing to remember with this farm is that a bee nest full of honey like this one emits a redstone signal strength of 5 blocks. The first thing we want to do is place a dispenser facing down into the bee nest. Now we need to figure out a way to trigger this dispenser into collecting the honey from the nest. And we start by using a comparator. We place it not that way, this way. This reads the redstone signal strength coming from the bee nest. Because we know that the nest is emitting a redstone signal of 5, we have 5 blocks to return this redstone signal to the dispenser. So now this is 3 blocks and we have to return this signal strength to the dispenser. And to do that, I'm going to use a glass block. Glass is transparent, meaning that if I put a glass block here and place a redstone dust on top, it connects with the redstone on the stone, but the redstone on the stone can still connect underneath. So now we have 4 pieces of redstone laid down. We can place another piece here, and with one final block, we now can add a repeater. This repeater now triggers the dispenser into working. If we now put a pair of shears in the dispenser and put the repeater back down, you will hear the dispenser immediately get triggered into shearing the honeycomb. Now that the nest has been sheared, it is emitting a redstone signal of 0, but as it fills up with honey, the redstone signal will get stronger and stronger until when it is full again, it will emit a signal of 5, trigger the repeater again, which then triggers the dispenser again into shearing the nest. So I hope that clarifies a little bit for you guys how this farm works. It's not too difficult to understand once you get the hang of it. The rest of this farm, however, will be my own design. But before we get to building the farm, I have a little bit of terraforming to do. I want to peel back this section of the mountainside a little bit, just so I have a little bit more room to work with. And I also need to dig a hole for the farm to sit inside. So, let's get digging. Okay, so now I have somewhere for the farm to sit in. The reason I wanted to put the farm underground is so I could reduce the footprint of the build on the surface. Now with this mountainside here, I'm going to leave it like this just temporarily because I'm not entirely sure how much of it I want to peel back. Now in the future, I'm obviously going to want to terraform this entire mountainside, but that is going to be a massive project and not on today's list. So that's just going to have to stay like that for now. Well, now I think there's nothing to it but to do it. Let's get started on this farm. Well, it doesn't look like anything from up here, but underneath, the build is now complete. On this side of the farm, I have the bottles to collect the honey, and on this side, I have the shears to collect the honeycomb. And at the back here, I have an auto dropper system that's going to send the items up to the surface in a water elevator. Overall, a fairly compact and simple design, but very effective and efficient. The water elevator chutes I've just brought up to the surface here, because at the moment I'm not sure exactly where they need to go. Now I need to get to work mapping out an area for the build on the surface here. This build is going to house the collection system for the farm and access to the farm. Alrighty, so I now have a size and shape of the build mapped out. I think I'm pretty happy with the size of the build in relation to the space I have available. And I think I'm pretty happy to continue on. So I think the way I want this build set out is I think I want the front entrance to bring me into the collection room. So I'll have all the chests on this back wall here, and I'll have a front entrance into the collection room as well as a side entrance that takes me back to my house. Now with the actual farm itself, I think I'm going to use this side entrance here as an access point to the farm. I'm also thinking of building a wall across here to kind of section this area off from the collection area, but I'm not 100% sure on that just yet. So now I need to decide upon a colour palette for the build and get to collecting some resources. I think I'm going to utilise a lot of birch for this build, but one thing to keep in mind is that I need to make sure this build is cohesive with the builds around it. So I think I'm going to utilise a lot of stone as well to help me with that, because the builds around it utilise a lot of stone as well. But anyways, let's get to gathering some resources. Alright, so after a little bit of resource gathering, I think I have pretty much everything that I'm going to need to get this build done. These bee nests were an absolute pain for me to find. It took me forever to find them all, but they are necessary for a design idea I have in mind for the interior of this build. But now, it's time to get this build done. Let's get to it. well, I think this build has turned out absolutely fantastic. I love how cozy it feels and how well it fits inside the space that I had. There were some elements of this build that took me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think I handled them really well and I'm really happy with the final result. The front of this build looks really good from the main pathway as well. I think I positioned it perfectly. If we come inside the front entrance, we have the collection room, and I think this is looking great. I'm especially loving the way that the ceiling turned out. On the left we have the honeycomb, and on the right we have the honey blocks, and as you can see, the farm is extremely efficient. If we come in through the side entrance here, we have access to the farm. If we drop down the left hand side, we get into the farm itself, and I've done a little bit of decorative work down here, but nothing crazy because I'll only ever be coming down here to replace the glass bottles and the shears, so I wasn't too concerned. But here we can come along and check on the bees, make sure the farm is working as intended. I also have access at the front, at the sides, and at the back to all the redstone if I should need it. Now that the build itself is complete, I have a lot of exterior decorative work to do. I want to put a lot of work into not only connecting these two builds together, but also connecting them more into the village itself so they don't feel so out of place. I'm going to start as I always do with my builds and connect them with pathways, as well as put a lot of work into texturing the ground around them. And then I can move on to putting some flowers and a lot of other foliage down. Okay, everything is now completed, connected, and decorated. I really love the vibe of this whole place, the feeling you get when you walk through, all the little details to take in, which I always try to make a big feature of all of my builds. I think the entire space has come together really well, and I'm really happy to have a honey and honeycomb farm and also finally have a place for the axolotls to call home in my world. But unfortunately, I do have to wrap things up for this episode. I had an absolute blast getting these builds done, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching them as much as I enjoyed making them. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a lot in continuing to grow this channel. But anyways, until next time, bye for now.